So welcome back to another episode of the Elite Agent Masterclass. Today, Jack and myself are joined by Emma Nugent. Emma Nugent is one of the best estate agents I've had the pleasure of working with in my 20-year career. She is committed. She is focused. She is so customer-centric. And we've had the great pleasure, Jack and I, of working with Emma now for, I think it's probably 4 years in total, 3 years as part of the Avenue. Emma took a very bold risk when we launched the Avenue and said, yeah, screw it, let's do it. I'll come with you. And it's fair to say that it's been quite the journey. Emma Nugent, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me. I feel honoured.
We've got Emma in person today as well, because one thing, although she's an amazing agent, she's got the most awful signal possible at her home address. So we've got her in person at the office with me today. Emma, I wanted to kick things off by asking, what do you love so much about the job that you do? Because you're very passionate. So where did it start? Where did it begin? What kind of got you into estate agency? And what is it you love so much about estate agency?
For me, doing estate agency, it's not a job. I tell this to people all the time. It's not a job. We go around, we nosy at people's houses, we get to showcase them, we get to show and meet people, all different types of people, and also help them in whatever journey they're going through. So for me, it's an absolute joy and an honour to be part of somebody's chapter in their life for a little bit. We all know that you don't just wake up every day and decide that you want to move house. It's normally for a genuine reason. So whether it's divorce, whether it's married, whether it's babies, whether it's jobs, whether it's schools, whatever, there's normally a reason why people have to sell or want to buy. And I think if we can just be part of that journey for just a few amount of months, and you can help somebody to move on to their chapter if they're selling, but also for somebody to find their dream home and be part of that. I mean, you have people cry on viewing sometimes because they're absolutely that in love with their house. Like it's amazing to just be part of that for a little bit. And you get to see some amazing places. Like for me, like properties, like it's property porn, isn't it? It's absolutely awesome. The type of houses that you go to and the specifications. And I think for me as well, I have the vision of how things can be changed, having done like refurbs and stuff before. So I think if you can be really excited about that house and also see the vision and potential and stuff that it has to offer and can portray that across to somebody else, I think that's amazing. How I got into it, just always been obsessed with property, really. So on a Thursday, where obviously we live, used to get the advertiser on a Thursday, pop through the door, and then used to sit and go through the paper and see what new houses were coming on. And yeah, if I was driving around and saw somebody was doing a bit of development, I'd go home and look on the planning portal and see what they're doing. Like, yeah, my stalker instincts obviously started very early. But yeah, just got obsessed with houses and property and what you can do and areas. And I think it's amazing how different areas like warrant different things for properties and offer different stuff. So yeah, just really got into it. How I became an estate agent, sort of fell into it really. So previously I used to be a business consultant and used to own a research company. So always been in business, but I always wanted to do property. So I'd applied a couple of times when I've been on maternity leave at different times, got 3 children, so quite a few times. So when I tried to get into it, I'd been told, no, you've got to work six days a week and it's got to be from 9 till 5:30 every day. And for me with kids, it just didn't work. Going into a standard high street sort of agency. And then someone who I knew offered me a potential to go and do part-time for an estate agent, which was 3 days a week, which was an individual high street one based in Walsall. And yeah, that's sort of then where it started. He was brilliant. He gave me the opportunity to learn different skills and the ropes and worked up to valuer there and how to market properties, not to the level that we do now, but how to start to showcase them and what you can portray and write about them and so on. And then I obviously got in touch with you in a nightclub. We already knew each other anyway.
40th birthday
yeah,
party.
40th birthday party. And he was like, just come and work for me. I was like, oh, okay, go on then. So we started obviously then at Purple Bricks and again started off doing the viewings and just worked again back up to valuer then. And then, yeah, when you guys said we're leaving. I was like,
you made a crazy decision, didn't you, to join us back in
no, it wasn't a
2021?
crazy decision. It wasn't. The only thing that was worried about to start off with was what do I do with my current clients and what happens with them, because obviously I love my customers. But to do the jump, it wasn't a major risk. I was in a fortunate position where I could do it. But to go with you guys, it wasn't a risk. It was always about you two. At Purple Bricks, it was about you two, and then coming to the Avenue, it was about you two. So
I appreciate that. Em. And I think, so normally before we hit record, as I said, we do a little bit of housekeeping. You know, this is the general format. This is how long it's going to go on for. We don't have an agenda to these intentionally because there's going to be different tangents that might go off in different directions. But one question I didn't ask you was whether anything was off limits. So I'm just going to work on the basis that nothing is off limits. And if I ask a question that goes down a pathway that you don't want to go down, you'll just have to say, no comment, Your Honour. So, but one thing I found it interesting early on in what you were saying there. We were at a kid's birthday party on Saturday. Beautiful house. We've actually got the house on the market at the moment because they're the parents of someone we know. And at one point, Margot, I turned to Hayley. I was like, "Where's Margot gone?" No idea. She's like, we're all outside, garden party, bouncy castle, everything else. So we go in search of Margot. First thing Hayley says, I bet she's in the house somewhere. So go inside, look for Margot. She's upstairs having a little look round. It's like, it's in the blood. It's in the blood. She's an estate agent born through and through. So where you're saying about getting the opportunity to look around beautiful properties, it's like ingrained from a very young age, right?
It does. My son, we drive past places, my son goes, "Oh, look how modern that one is. Oh, look at the windows on that one. Oh, look at this." And Liam just sits there in the car, just shaking his head like, "You are definitely your mother's son." Definitely.
Love that.
Liam's important as well.
Yeah.
One of the big questions I wanted to touch on, and it's like this mythical creature that people talk about in the industry, and that is work-life balance. Now, I appreciate you've had an immensely busy September, but in general, you've alluded to it already. So you're running your self-employed business. You are mum to 3 young lads who all have different needs in so much as different sports that they take part in, different clubs they're a part of, all at school age. Obviously, your husband's busy as well. How do you spin it all? And for the record, we said nothing was off, nothing was untouchable. So for the last 2 years consecutively, you've had a very comfortable 6-figure income from your self-employed business. So how do you maintain such an incredible business, continue to grow it, and be mum?
Can I just add to that as well? Not only are the 3 boys absolutely football crazy, Emma's also decided that this season she's going to take up football herself as well. So she manages to get in 3 lots of football a week, and run a hugely successful estate agency business and be an amazing mum. Yeah, how do you manage it all?
Just wing it. Yeah, you just pile it on, don't you? You just pile it on and just take it on. And I think I'm not a person who chills anyway, so I don't have downtime, which is wrong. I understand, or most people think it's wrong. I think you need to have a Sunday to recover. That's our 3 football days. Like it's just mental. But I'm not a person. I can't just stand still. I've never been that type of person. I've never been academic. I've always been a lot more practical. I just have to do things. And I like to do things well. And also I'm not very good at giving over control of things either. So I think I would just rather take it. I'd rather just do it. Don't get me wrong. There have been times where it's been close to burnout. The summer has been very difficult and September has been ridiculously busy. But obviously it's a roller coaster in a estate agency. So it goes busy and quiet at different times. But it's just a matter of trying to be as organised as possible, trying to work out what you are willing to sacrifice and give up and what is a no-go. So for me, Sundays, when we first started the Avenue, I probably was doing 7 days a week. I was doing open days on a Sunday and so on. But now Sundays are football days. We have got 3 football matches every Sunday for us to try and do as a family, and homework to fit in and try and have a family meal and stuff together. So that is no-go. And then there are also times where I try and fit in holidays, so actual holidays around and with the kids, whether it's me and the kids on our own or whether us as a family. There are scheduled into a year to try and give yourself that recovery time and a bit of a break. It means that you can still obviously be on the end of a phone and at the end of a WhatsApp or so on, but it means that physically you are trying to step away just a little bit. But the rest of it is just more down to organisation. I'd say we're at a stage in my business now where I can be a bit more picky with what we go out to and what we do. And I think I've also got the obviously ability of having Helen, who's my client executive, who I have to obviously rely on as well for some of the stuff as well. So it's getting to that stage of trying to know, and that was a bit risky as well, sort of knowing when to bring somebody else into your business. So being able to start it from the start and then grow it to a stage where I could bring somebody in. It's now assessing, well, where are we at the next stage of, do I need somebody else, or is it to a stage where actually you've got to cap it as where it is? Because there are times where you don't have that work-life balance. I brought somebody else in so that I didn't have to do every Saturday, so I wasn't working 6 days a week. The summer and September have gone a bit different. So at the moment I am doing 6 days a week, but it should get back to that stage. And then at least then you feel like you are getting a bit of recovery on a weekend, ready to start fighting in the week again. And around the kids' clubs and everything, it's sometimes I have to do school. I still do school runs every day. I still do clubs every day, but it might be that I take that time out and then go back to go and do valuations and viewings from like 6 till 8. It just depends on balance really within the family and husband's schedule of golf and meetings and everything else.
I've got a question as a spin-off. So work-life balance can be categorized in a number of ways, and it is a bit of a mythical creature, as some people like, it's not possible. But there's different ways to spin it. I think a lot of people just look at it as very black and white. Work-life balance being that you can have a 4-day week, for example, and have this really, really cushy lifestyle where you only work 4 hours a day. The alternate to that is where you can graft for a period of time, which means you don't then have to graft until retirement. And that's the way I look at the work-life balance. I'm quite comfortable with putting in a shift now because I have ambitions not to be, I want to be able to choose how I spend my time beyond the age of 40. That's my ambition. I don't want to retire, but I want to be able to pick and choose when and how I work. And so that's my vision of work-life balance. But different question, but on the same pathway, what impact on your life has the self-employed journey had?
So there's two self-employed journeys. So obviously Purple Bricks one was different. And then this one is like another level. So this one, I would say, working at the Avenue is a real self-employed model. And where you're talking about work-life balance and the impact that it can have, the money that you can generate from this, if you are successful, and it doesn't come straight away, it does take time. One, to build up the fees, two, to actually get to completion sometimes. So you have got to put that time and effort into it to get there. But for me, and I'll be honest, we've said this before, my husband thought this was a pipe dream when we first joined the Avenue. And
we said nothing was untouchable. So are you okay for me to share what he said at the time?
And don't get me wrong, like I've been a business consultant before, worked self-employed then. I ran a research company, was my own business with my dad then. Obviously, was employed at I Love Homes. Going to Purple Bricks was self-employed, so that was a big jump. And every decision that I've made, like we've chatted it through, how it's going to impact us as a couple, us as a family, money-wise, and everything else. And look, he's in construction. He's very good at his job. He's on a very good level. So I'm fortunate in the position I was in to be able to take these risks. But when we were working 7 days a week to start off with, it's a bit like all you do is talk about work, all you do is work. It's consuming. And it is when you are starting a business. And I think people need to understand that you have got to allow it to consume you to start off with, to be able to get to a stage where you can get that balance. You're not going to be able to set up a brand new business and have that balance from the start. It's just not going to happen. And there will be times where it still consumes you as you go forward. So I've had 2 months of consumption recently, but I know that in another month's time, it won't be. And December looks very different for me, as in lots of breaks. And I think it's building up to that. So I think, if he said it was a pipe dream to start off with, I knew what I wanted to do. And I always thought, if it doesn't work out, I'll go and do something else. But you've got to give it a go. To
give the listeners a little bit more context to that as well. So your partner Liam, as you said, is in a very good job, 6-figure income from his current role. And I think when we first spoke, when we first launched, one of the big goals for you was just to pay for one of your holidays, pay for a nice holiday with the family, with the kids, and for you to be able to have your own income to be able to do that, because you've obviously got Liam who is able to support you and the family. Whereas now, your income that you're generating is very much in high competition with what Liam's now earning. So those 6 figures that you're earning, multi-6 figures now, is incredible from where it all started.
And it's allowing us to do things like holiday wise, we're going on great holidays now. I'm able to book things that he doesn't know that we're booking and we're doing and stuff like that, and like in a good surprise way, by the way. But also,
by the way, that's off limits. We can't mention any of that. He doesn't know. I
can't mention where we're going and what we're doing for. No. But it's just for me now to have those
listeners. It is wicked. We'll have to get you back on after you've been, so you can tell people where you've been. It is quality.
And it's worth it, and it shows that you can achieve these things. But also in my head, like now, like I want to change my car. We're now at a point where we're just currently moving house. Hopefully we'll be completing in a couple of weeks' time. We've both been able to go on the mortgage this time, whereas last time we moved 4 years ago. Yes, we move a lot. I think this is our 5th move. When we moved 4 years ago, we were both on the mortgage, but we're only able to do it on his salary and his money. Whereas this time, obviously, my business has been able to be included, and it's allowed us to buy basically like £750,000 home. So it really has stepped up what we can do and where we want to be. And both of us don't have ambitions to want to work really late like yourselves. We're talking about potentially retiring around 55. I'm 38 at the moment. He's 40 this year. So we're trying to get that goal now of like, get it as much as we can, get the right balance of how big we want the business to go and how we can manage that. And I mean, we've always said we never want the avenue to be the biggest. We want it to be the best of where it is. And I think it's just getting that balance right then.
Love that. Now, again, I'd really like to be able to provide people with context. Your story so far, and by the way, you're the first, I guess, story that whenever I talk to someone that is looking at joining the Avenue, and this is about Elite Agency, but we're referring to the Avenue because you're obviously a partner agent at the Avenue, but I want to sort of transfer this into the Elite Agent Masterclass context. Whenever I talk to a potential partner that's looking at joining us, your story is always one that I share. It inspires me every time I share it. It fills me with such pride, genuinely, because you came from this environment where you put your trust in us to come on this journey from something that was nothing. And your income at Purple Bricks, let's face it, you were working hard there, but if I remember rightly, we had a conversation when you were just leaving to join us on this journey. And I think your best month at PB didn't fetch more than 2K. And nothing's off limits, so I'm going to share it. You've had several occasions, and I know Jack's got some numbers written down that he'll share in a moment, but you've had several occasions now where you've had 5-figure incomes quite comfortably monthly. And that for me is just it's so humbling that, you know, we've been able to support and create an environment that you've been able to achieve that. But now I feel like it's just kicked up a notch. And Jack, you're going to share why.
Yeah, so this month has been absolutely crazy for you, and the 2K months at Purple Bricks have been 10x'd a couple of times with where you are now, which is absolutely phenomenal. To have this month over 55K added to your instruction fees is unbelievable. An average value of 5 instructions being at just under 800 grand. 6 sales agreed this month over 66 grand in added to your sales pipeline, and 45K just from 2 listings alone. One of the things I really want to dive into a little bit more with that is you're incredibly good at getting your properties shifted from instruction through to sale agreed through to completion. How do you manage to spin all those plates? And what is there anything you can give to the listeners, anyone that's self-employed, anyone that's in a estate agency out there, that you can give a little bit of a golden nugget to a piece of advice that can really help them with their new instructions, with their listings, and getting those instructions turned into, I suppose, cash in the bank, essentially?
Okay, so starting from the journey, my instructions predominantly now just come from reviews and recommendations. So I don't do a lot of letter drops. I don't do door knocking after a couple of experiences. I know it's what we should do. I know it's what new agents should be doing. But a lot of mine comes through network. So I worked very hard when I first started and still continue to do so. Of when you're saying time, what do? You throw yourselves into football clubs, you throw yourselves into the school, you throw yourselves into as many networks and whatever as you can. And it's starting to come back. So this month alone, 2 of the instructions, one has come from Boldmere Football Club and the other one's come from Sutton United Football Club. Like I've got school mums. I think I've done 12 people, 3 from school who we've sold and instructed and stuff through. So getting instructions has to come from networking as much as you can, and then ensuring that you're giving a service enough to be able to get reviews and recommendations and so on from them. But it normally just comes verbally, then out through those. Getting them instructed, I think comes more from as much. I stalk properties and people as much as possible before I go out to go and see them. I try and do on my valuations as much research as possible, square footage, plot sizes, conditions, sold prices, just as much as possible, satellite images, anything else you can, planning permissions on council websites and anything to try and know as much about it before I go, so that you can be as confident as possible. But because a lot come through reviews and recommendations, you are also already building up a bit of a rapport with them already. And that trust element is obviously already there. You've then got to use the valuation to obviously highlight that to the next stage. With regards to getting them on and getting them sold, I think the marketing that we do obviously goes to absolute town, and I think we make sure that we get that spot on. So different agents, again, do that in different ways. I'm not scripted on our videos or anything like that. I prefer to wing it when I'm there, because I feel like that's a lot more authentic about the features that we choose, the things that we highlight, and I feel that I come across on my videos more excited because I genuinely am about the bits that we're highlighting, rather than it being scripted and told to talk about that. And I get the ideas and talk to the sellers about the ideas at the valuation. So I'm about to take on a house that's in the middle of Sutton Town, Coalfield, and a certain Coalfield Town Centre, and it's like a hidden house. So you've got all these terraces, houses, and then you go down a secret driveway, and there's a 3-bed detached house with a double garage and a garden and everything, but nobody knows it's there. So already just talking to her on the valuation phone call, just talking to her when I was there, I was just like, the video is going to start with, do you fancy buying a secret house in the middle of Sutton Coalfield Town Centre? Like, and that is what we're going to do. And then this is how we're going to show it. And this is what, and I think if you can be really excited about that, that then comes across in all the marketing. So a lot of the valuations that I'm taking on at the moment predominantly are ones that are on the market with other agents at the moment. And I think that's them because we can showcase it differently. And we get that across on the valuation, and we get that across with the marketing that we do. We are very particular with the lifestyle that we sell, and then who that's got to go through. And then just trying to be really proactive as possible then once it's live. Every couple of days, I'll change the photos around on Rightmove to keep it as fresh as possible. All of mine have premium listing, whether it's a 1-bed flat, whether it's a 5-bed grade 2 listed property, whatever it is, we'll have that. And then what we're utilising at the moment is Instagram and other social media of how to theme things as much as possible. And then also the collaboration with wider partners. How can we do that? Who is most suitable for that house? How can they help us to get it out as well? And then communicating that back with the sellers. So I've had one recently where it took me 10 months to sell it. But my God, have I invested in the marketing and worked my ass off to be able to get that house sold. But because of communicating that to that seller the whole way through, there's other ones that have door knocked on them. There's others that have sent them proposals and stuff like that and promised them the world. But they have genuinely seen the enthusiasm and the passionate side that I've got. And there are times where we have then lost it. People have then gone on with other agents. And then I've had the call going, I wish I'd never done that. Should never have done that. Should never have gone.
I think we should give a little bit more context to the story that you're talking about as well, because this particular property, it was on with another agent before it was listed with you as well, wasn't it?
So two other ones before you.
Although it's been on with you for quite a while, for several months. And I think for having had it on the market for 6 months, most agents would get disheartened and think, well, this property just isn't going to sell. Yeah. You had a lot of other agents tout the property, and send them a full breakdown, a full proposal on what they could do differently. Yet the seller trusted you to say, Emma, look, we're going to stick by you. We're going to stick with you. We know that you're doing everything you can. And just this month, you managed to get it tied up. And can I say 100K over the listing price as well. So it just goes to show all the effort, the money that you spend in, the time and effort that you put into these properties really is generating sellers incredible results. And I just think it goes to show how tenacious you are, how consistent you are, and the work ethic that you've got is incredible to make sure you get the job done.
I just go in, if I go and see a house, to think, I only want to take on a house that I know that I can sell. For me, it's not about numbers. It's not about just getting a listing. It's not about just getting a board. I even say to my sellers, if you don't want a board, that's fine. This is the advantage of having a board, but you don't have to have one. But like for me, it's like I only take on properties that I think that I can sell. If I don't think I'm a good match for them or something else goes, we've given keys back to sellers before. We've said no to listings. For me, it has to be, it matches what we can do. We can add value with the marketing that we do. And I really, really, really want to help them to get on to their next chapter. And I really think that I could portray the lifestyle that their house has to offer to the buyers differently to any other estate agent, or completely differently to, especially if they've already had one before. And the other thing that we do well is we've got a client executive who, when we take on properties, majority of the time she'll come and visit on the marketing shoot and then go back then and see what hot buyers we've got already. So recently we've just done a marketing shoot for a £1.1 million home with a swimming pool. Already we've got 2 people who want to come and view it already just off the video. Haven't even got the rest of the marketing yet. Because we've been able to work out who it would go for.
I think there's 2 words that I would always use to describe you, and there's some spin-off stuff off that. So you are relentless. You're like a dog with a bone. But the example of the property that we were talking about just now that had been on the market for so long with other agents, those agents had clearly given up, because if they'd have served the client the way you have been, then they wouldn't have lost the client. So clearly there's something in that. Secondly, you're immensely competitive, like so fiercely competitive. So you combine that relentless attitude with a competitive nature, with someone who truly gives a shit and really does care. And it's like, okay, that's like a really explosive concoction of ingredients in a positive way. But the other thing I think that needs to be touched on here, twofold. One, you've just shared it in relation to Helen, your client executive, goes to look at the properties, then goes back, she matches them up with buyers that you're working with. So you do the basics really, really well. You know your buyers, you're matching properties to buyers. Let's be real. Anyone that's listening in that's in corporate world right now, challenge me. Please challenge me if you disagree. No one's doing that anymore. Especially the corporates. The reason I'm targeting them in particular, the corporates haven't got the time. They're trying to list too many properties at once to be able to have the time to go away and really thoughtfully look at who have I got that's moving in the market right now that's appropriate for that one. But I think coming back to the one where we just shared, where you got it sold after 10 months on the market and you'd nurtured a relationship, one of the other basics that you've done really well is you've managed their expectations. So it was on at a price that you inherited from a previous agent. You then nurtured the relationship to get them to a point where they agreed that actually maybe we need to reposition the price. And that's the key here, is that you repositioned the price, had next to no interest while it was on at the previous agent's price, got the owner to agree to repositioning the price, quite a significant change, generated what, 3 viewings?
5, we had 5 in a week.
Bloody hell. That just goes to show that by nurturing the relationship, you managed to get them to reduce their price by over 10%, but you've ended up then selling it for 100 grand more than what you dropped it by. So you've probably ended up selling it for more than they would have got had they stayed at the original price, if they'd have got a sale at all, because they were just languishing at a price that wasn't realistic. So I think the biggest point I want to try and, I guess, piece this all together in a sentence with, for those that are listening in, is do the basics really, really well. Nurture the client relationship. Once they're on board, you'll get them where they need to go. Emma got the price reduction to the point that it needed to be at and has then sold it at a price that the client was happy with. The basics sometimes are getting missed in today's estate agency, and people are too heavily focused on volume. Slow the volume down.
I think that is the problem, though, if you are dealing with mass volume. Like, we only had 10 properties live at a time. When I brought Helen in, we've gone to 15 properties live at a time. That is it. So it is about managing that, because otherwise you can't give that service, or you can't review the stats, you can't have a look at what's happening, you can't keep refreshing the marketing. I mean, with that one, we went out and we did like 2 videos, like full length videos, like marketing wise, invested loads into it. And that's it. I mean, not last week, the week before, we went round to go to properties, 6 properties, to go and do 6 new feature reels. Like, it's just trying to be fresh all the time with how can we keep generating interest on it. Like, we need to keep getting people through the door. We need to do it, or we need to theme it differently this time. There's multiple buyers it can go to. How can we theme that to first-time buyers, theme that to a family, theme that to downsizers, depending on what suits that property.
And that's, I was about to say, in inverted commas, that's service. So we talk about it a lot, don't we? We talk about delivering really, really good service, but what is service until you actually unpack it? And people can't. That's why we do beautiful marketing, because our belief as a brand is that if you deliver beautiful marketing that is better than anything else that's in your marketplace, clients and homeowners will look at that and go, they're different. They do something different. And then that kind of subliminal message carries through. Why would they go to all that effort if they're not then going to deliver great service? Because every agent will go into a living room and say, we'll give you the best service. Because you're not going to say, I'm going to give you shit service, are you? You're not going to say that. You're not. But what you're then doing is what you're sharing there, Emma, and I get really passionate about this, because when people try and challenge it, you should go off the market share and volume. BS. Because you've just articulated what great service looks like. It's having the time to really sit down and go, okay, we've hit a bit of a block in the road on this particular property. How are we going to move it forward? What do we need to do differently? Is it something from a marketing perspective? Could we position it in front of a new audience somehow? And then having that granular look. Nobody else has got time to do that.
I think as well, not only have they not got time, but the longer it sits in the market, and I remember going back to High Street, people put off those difficult conversations. The longer it's been on, the more difficult it is to pick up the phone to the seller, because you're like, I've got to have another difficult conversation. We had the same conversation last week, whereas you have those difficult conversations. The other thing I think we haven't really touched on is mindset. Every time I speak to you about one of your properties that either hasn't got the right interest, hasn't sold yet, you tell me every time, we're going to sell it. I know we're going to sell it. It's going to sell. We've got a plan. We've got a strategy. It's going to go. We've just got to keep actioning, keep implementing the plan, and eventually it's going to sell. And I think it's that relentless, solid mindset that keeps driving and pushing you on to making sure that you're getting results for these clients each and every time. It is tenacious.
Well, I find that when I go in evaluation, I'll always say to people, look, I have a plan A, B, C, D. Keep going. And if the stats tell us it's price, then it's price that we need to do. But that's only if the statistics are the marketing is hitting massive numbers and it's not coming through, then obviously it's price. But from everything else, this is what we will always try. Price will always be the last thing that we'll do. And that then comes back into obviously it being short contract lengths, only being sole agency and other things and so on. But I think if we can assure them that actually we will try anything and everything we can do beforehand, then I think that, and we actually do, rather than just going in and going, look, you need to reduce. But like I said, it's only basically if the statistics tell us that that's what we need to do. Everything else will be trying as much marketing and different ways as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So taking it down a slightly different route then for those listening in, obviously you've been, let's call it true self-employment. You took that stepping stone at PB, but in reality it wasn't self-employed because everyone was being fed leads. So it wasn't. Whereas now, so you've been in this environment of true self-employment for just over 3 years. You've built a really, really good business. What's your biggest challenge that would be of value for those listening in? What would be the biggest challenge that people really need to consider if they're going to go on the journey of self-employed estate agency?
Look
at that, I've managed to silence Emma Nugent. Would you believe it?
Yeah. I think there's not a big. I think there's just little challenges. I don't think there is a big one. I think my biggest one coming into this was the fees. And the confidence in the fees. So I think that was.
So let's go there. That's a good one because I think a lot of people relate. What was the thought process behind the fees, and then what changed?
I think I can really relate to this as well because I suppose we've all come from the purple bricks background.
Yeah.
So to probably add a little bit more to that, there's a completely different model to what we're looking at now. So high volume, low fees, whereas now it's very much quality over quantity. So much better fees.
And even when I was at the high street one as well, it was
low fee
similar.
Low fee charging model. So it's changed that mindset, isn't it? From going from taking on anything and everything and just getting it on because you want the market share, you want the fee, to we had a conversation not so long ago where you said you find it really difficult to say no to clients or to accept that client isn't the right client to work with, because you do still want to want to help everyone, but it's been that mindset that you've had from previous businesses. So how did you transition into being able to charge the sorts of fees you're charging now? Because an average fee across the business is 5 figures.
I think it was just getting to a point where you realise what people will pay. And because before I was just like, well, why would you pay that? Why would you pay that? But you get to a stage where actually you then realise what you can do as an agent to be able to get that. And I think the difference of a high street, the difference of the previous one we were at to what we can do now. And yes, it's that service that people can't see, but the marketing they can see. The reviews and recommendations help with the service that they can't see, but they know or expect then that they're going to get. And the reviews and recommendations, they're already telling people most of the time the fee. So like that then doesn't become a huge barrier. And I just think after that, if there's ones now, I went to a valuation on Saturday. I was the last valuation in. And she said, is there any negotiation on that? I looked at her and I said, no. And I'm getting confident in that, because before I'd be like, oh, I don't know. But she said, well, I've already had so-and-so in and they were only 0.75%, so half of your fee. And I had so-and-so in and they were 1% and they said that they would negotiate. I said, okay. I said, but we offer something completely different. I said, so what part of the service would you like me to take away? And I think now it's just the confidence in knowing that if they walk away and they don't get it, and people will argue, okay, well, you haven't shown them the value or you haven't done this or so on. And maybe I haven't. But there are times now where I feel I'm confident enough that I've got into that valuation with enough data to go and tell them where it is. I'm confident enough that even if they've told me that 2 other agents have told them that it's this, I'm happy to challenge it and show them why. And I think then through showing them the marketing, and most of the time if they've been reviewed or been given as a review or recommendation from somebody else, it's a take it or leave it. And I think I'm at that stage where I'm big enough, it sounds really big-headed now, but I'm big enough with, I think I've done, 17 market appraisals this month so far.
Yeah. And that's what I was about to say. It's the Daniel Priestley thing, isn't it? That whole with or without you energy. Like we do something better. Our results are testament to that. Our reviews support that testament. If you want cheap, that's cool, but that ain't us.
No. And there's ones where you go in as well and you know that like feedback has been given where you were the lowest valuation of them and you're the highest fee. I get that. You're going to want to go and try. If someone's told you it's 150, last one recently, somebody told them it was 150 grand more. It's not. We've already done 2 bungalows on the road, which have had to be reduced in price because of an access issue. And this one's about exactly the same. I went through all the data, told it all, but I was the highest fee and the lowest valuation. But I know that they are going to be sat on the market. I know it, but
also, I also know.
Yeah.
But I also know because of your relentless character and your competitive nature, you will follow them up, you will stay in touch, and you will get that right.
I think it's important to note, though, that you're in a great spot with your business now. And 17 valuations, you're not going to be able to take all of those clients on. So, not all of them are going to be the right fit for you. But it has been very much a staircase, hasn't it, in terms of where you were at the very start. Yeah. Once you started to see some of the results coming in, you test a slightly higher fee, and then you saw the fact that there was no challenges, so it gave you the confidence then to pitch a little bit higher. And you're now at a point where you're very comfortable with where your fees are. And if anyone does challenge, potentially they're not the right fit for you. But it's been a process, hasn't it, from when we first launched?
It definitely has. Even up to last year, I was still kind of struggling with it a little bit. And there are still times now where I know that if I take on one and it's going to lead to also them, because they're all moving down south together, it's also then going to give me their mum's house and their sister's house or whoever else. Like you will still do deals and stuff like that on it, but you'll explain what level of service they're going to get for that and how it's all going to work out and come between. But I think
it's a commercial decision. That's a commercially smart decision.
That's a choice they're making on the business that's coming through.
and I also want to be clear, because there would be some people listening in, and there's got to be a yin to every yang, right? And there's nobody on this call counter arguing the point that, you know, for example, Purple Bricks would argue everyone should pay one fair fee. It's not fair that people should pay different fees. And quite frankly, that we now recognize that is BS, right? And so I think what we need to then be mindful of with the counter argument is that it's not about trying to charge a fee that is, you kind of wince because you're like, I'm overcharging. It's not about that. It's about recognizing your value point. And I think that's the biggest challenge. I think that's where estate agency is being held back, is that there are people leading businesses saying to their staff, you know, people should pay that fee because that's fair. 0.5% is fair. 995 or now free, that's fair. It's not about fairness. It's about getting the best outcome. If I'm having an accountant represent me, I don't want them to give me a fair price. I want to give me a price that's indicative of them getting me the best outcome, which is to save me as much tax as possible.
But it's also us running a natural business. Like, we are employing people, we are paying loads out in marketing and databases and everything else. Like, it's not like we are just doing this.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note as well in terms of the prices that you're then able to achieve for your clients. So although yes, they might pay a little bit more upfront, or the fee might be a little bit higher,
you're achieving them more than most.
You're achieving a much better. One example, one that you sold not so long ago, which was on the market with another agent. And you ended up selling it, even though the other agent hadn't had any success, for 20 grand, 25 grand, I can't remember what the figure was, over the asking price. So although your fee was higher than the other agent, I think it worked out that the client at the end of the transaction was 18 grand better off from using you, even if the other agent would have sold it for full asking price and they pay their fee. So I think it's really important to note, the more you invest into the market and the more you invest into the service, the better results you're going to be able to achieve, and the more money you're going to have at the end of the transaction, as opposed to trying to save the money on the fee or scrimp and scrape on marketing. And really important, I think, to invest into service marketing to get the results that you want to achieve.
And the thing is, the reviews are also testament. You know, I know full well that I could pick up the phone to every single one of Emma's clients that are paying a princely sum for Emma to represent, and Helen, obviously, for those two to represent that client, and not a single one of them would turn around and say, I feel you're overcharging me.
I actually spoke to one of Emma's clients about 12 months ago. I won't mention any names after on the podcast. And they expected your fee to be higher, and they said they would have paid a higher fee. I'll tell you after the pod.
There you go. And that's really the point. I think it's about correlating value to delivery, isn't it? You know, if you were going in at a 1.5-2% fee, and then the customer doesn't hear from you for 6 weeks after they've listed, well, then more for you. Whereas they hear from you probably most days, and most days they're hearing from you in a valuable way, in a supportive way, in a how can I get this person moved to the next chapter in their life because I give a shit kind of way. So I think there shouldn't be this issue. There's a real limiting belief in the industry around what people are prepared to pay for quality. I also think there's a big misunderstanding in the industry of what value actually truly looks like, how to increase it. And so that's what the Elite Agent Masterclass exists for. How can we extract some absolute gold from people like Emma Nugent and other amazing guests that we've had on the show, and the incredible people that we've got coming up? Because the more people that listen in, I get messages now pretty much every week when we release a pod from about half a dozen people. That was brilliant. I've taken that away. I'm going to go and do that. And I'm like, that's what this exists for. This is why we want more, because I don't look at it as competition. I don't look at it that I get messages from half a dozen people that are in the industry in different brands or self-employed models or employed. I don't look at it and go, bloody hell, we're making them better, we've got to be fearful. I look at it and go, we're making the industry better. And if they can start to increase their fees, then it'll only benefit us, because then we can compete on value. Then we can compete on marketing, not compete on who can essentially sell themselves to the devil for sweet FA. And so...
Sorry, because I think also for agents to understand that obviously the model that we're working off is, I mean, different people will do it different ways with marketing packages and those sort of things. I don't do any upfront marketing packages. And the reason that I don't is I want my clients to see that I'm personally investing into this, that I truly believe that I can sell your house. And with no sale, no fee, if I didn't, that's a loss to me. It's not a loss to me. I see it as a marketing strategy, but still, I want them to be able to see that I'm personally investing and putting myself forward, and for them to also know I do not get paid until you get to completion. So I am on this whole journey with you, and I do not get any reward until after you have completed. And I think that that's important to get across as well, that it's not salaried, it's not payments up front, it's not, you've got that clear motivation and passion to get it from start to finish, and you are investing, you are giving something back to start off with.
Yeah, more financially invested than the sellers themselves, because the sellers, they give you the instruction, but if you're the one then putting the money into the market, and then essentially you're more financially invested than they are.
What would your last question for me? What would your number one piece of advice be for someone that is, let's forget whether they're going into self-employed estate agency. Let's just imagine they are an estate agent in some form. They run a business. They might be employed as a valuer. They might be looking at self-employed. What would be your number one piece of advice to those out there that are wanting to improve, that genuinely are listening in with intent to want to improve their fees, attract better quality clients, and therefore attract better quality properties? What would your advice be?
Can I say two?
Greedy, go for it.
Okay. The first one would be network to hell. Network as much as you can, throw yourself into anything and everything, shout as loud as you can about what you do and why you do it. Get your friends and your family to shout as loud as you can about what you do and why you do it, and to use you. Because if you're not proud of what you do and not want to shout it from the rooftops, then, and believe in yourself and put that across, then why would anybody else? And that's where the start of your networks, your reviews, your recommendations, that's where it's going to come from. So your presence, if you're working still for a high street, that's where it's going to come from, because you're going to bring in reviews and recommendations to the where you work, the branch where you work. But then if you want to do the self-employed one, that is going to be massive for you to get your first few listings. I mean, when we set up in 2021, it was 21, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had, in that first month, I had 5 instructions in that first month. And that came through. One was through the football club, a couple were through school, and the rest was through reviews and recommendations of just getting out there and telling people. Then it starts on social media, and obviously you build it all up. But get out there and tell everybody what you do and why, and that sort of thing.
You have to be super passionate and proud, like you said, don't you, of what you do, and you certainly are. And I know when we first launched, everyone knew exactly what you were doing. And I think everyone around you wants to help that person who's just starting out, or the smaller guys, the smaller businesses. They really want to help and support where they can. So they're only going to be able to help if they know about you and know what you're doing. So getting that message out there, I think, is really important. And you've created an incredible business based off the network that you've got and being involved in football clubs and the school mums and everyone knowing who you are, who Emma Nugent is in the local area, because you're so proud of it.
My second one is processes. And the reason that I say that is sometimes I go off on tangents and lose the processes because I get so busy. And then we have a refresher course, or we have to have a meeting, or I have to rein it back a little bit, and get back into doing things properly, like you say. So like me and Helen will have a meeting in the morning, go through everything that's on market, go through all the sold stuff, go through as to what's coming on, so we know exactly where the business stands and where it is. But then processes for them moving through. So try not to rush the putting the properties onto the market. Try and stick to we've got clear processes for marketing, and that's how it's going to be. Clear processes for the viewings. Like, we are very strict that we do the viewings, how long the viewings take, people's appointment, like everything that we do around that. Offers, and we don't present offers until you've got full proof of funds. And it's just really important, I think, to stick to those processes. And I find even valuations, market appraisals, follow-ups, all of those sort of things. Don't get me for not putting stuff on Livestock. I've got loads better. But it's just that's
loads. Yeah, we created a league table, and all of a sudden, the competitive nature of Emma Nugent means everything.
There's a surprise.
With the month that I'm having, I just want to say, but I'll bring that up after. But no, I just think having processes. So again, whether you are in a branch and thinking of it, or whether you are thinking of setting it up, you have really got to think about, if I'm going to get a lead, how am I going to do that? And if I've got that lead, then what is my plan with that lead going forward? Because if you're just starting up, you're only going to have a couple to start off with, a couple on the market, which is fine. But you're going to have to market them to town. You're going to have to tell everybody about it. You're going to have to deliver really, really well on those for it then to lead on to others.
Use those as your showcase listings, essentially.
Yeah. Networking and processes. There you have it.
Emma, processes, I suppose, another one of the reasons that the Elite Agent Masterclass exists. We do a lot of, Emma, you've came to all of the events that we've had, both for the Avenue and for the Elite Agent Masterclass. And for us, it's all about giving people a little bit of tips, advice, some of our processes that we run across our business, and sharing those with some of across the industry. Because I think, as Jane said earlier, it's really important that we continue to raise the standards in the industry. And essentially that is what team has been set up for and created for. We are going to be launching, and we haven't told you that, our next event is going to be November, which we're going to be sharing some details of very, very soon. So anyone listening in, keep your eyes peeled for the upcoming event that we're going to be running towards the end of this year.
And I think that's important, because obviously when we first set up the Avenue, there weren't necessarily all of those things in place. So we were winging it. We were going to be honest. It enabled us to trial different things. I mean, I think we're on our 3rd or 4th CRM system, and it allowed us to trial as many different things as possible, and either the branding, how to get it out there, what the footprint is going to be, which now means that when you've got new partners coming in, like the processes that they go through are so smooth and so effective that it makes a real difference on someone who really wants to come in and do that business.
There you go. Networking and processes. Emma, it's been a pleasure. And as I say, for you, if ever I have to remind myself, because look, we occasionally have days where we're like, Christ almighty, this is like pulling teeth. If ever I need to remind myself of why we did what we did, I only have to think of the journey you've been on. So for me, it's a massive thank you for being a part of what we've created. It wouldn't be what it is today without your input and your contribution and the role you play. So thank you. Thank you for joining us on the Elite Agent Masterclass. And we'll let you get back to what is a really, really busy September. So that is another episode of the Elite Agent Masterclass.
Thank you for having me. And thank you both.